lives one day at a time. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. They're here to get your day going fine. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. And here's your host, Miss Kim Robinson.
And I'm here with my good friends Shirley Murdoch and Fred Hammond. That's right, quick show. And we want to sing this song just to encourage your husband now. Fred, Dr. Scott, let's go. Here we go. And the song goes. God of the good time, keeper of the bad time, extender of mercy, and always on time. God will take care, He's always there. I know.
Hey, good evening, all. Good evening. Welcome back to an eventful evening. So for the next hour, I'll be your host once again. This is Minister Sedric, helping everybody find that relentless pursuit. Now, about this time of year, I just want to say that I had something that's deep on my mind tonight. Talked to a couple of friends, a couple of brothers, a couple of people about it, but I've been thinking about, we all know that the elections are upon us. They're upon all of us in every state, and it's our time to get out. Posed with a question. And that question was simply, what does the Bible say about voting? Why should I vote? And I had to ponder on that for a little while because I had some young people, you know, like our millennials and our Generation Z or whatever they're calling it now. I can't keep up with it. But there were some questions out there, and I was trying to answer this question. And dealing with young people, you know, if you answer one question, you get another question, which I believe is a good thing. But the thing I've been pondering on all week is, what does the Bible say about voting? Is voting biblical? Pondering that. So as I open us up here again tonight, remember, just relax your mind, rest your eyes, just open up everything and try to take it all in. So we're going to welcome God into this segment. And again, we want to be talking about voting, why I should vote, or why is voting important, or does my vote even count? So I should have my two good friends should be on tonight. I know that that I spoke to Chris earlier, and he said, hey, I want to be on. I want to talk a little bit about the voting. But I don't just want to talk about voting. I want to talk about voting I want to talk about voting from a standpoint of responsibility. You know, I'm constantly talking about being responsible over your household. I'm constantly talking about being responsible over your actions, your finances. You know, we got all these things to be responsible about when it just pertains to us, like for myself, I'm responsible for my finances. I like to say I'm Joe Blow, the boss of my own body, right? That's what I say. And voting is kind of one of those things as well. I'm the boss of my own body, but I'm also reminded that it's important for me to get out and vote. I can think of a number of different scriptures where it talks about person is subject to the governing authorities. I think that comes out of Romans. I know that comes out of Romans. Let me say it like that. I know that in Titus we find where it says, it reminds us to be submissive to our rulers and our authorities, right? It tells us to be obedient and ready for every good work, right? Right. So why is it that today so many of us take voting so lightly? Why is it that today, in the land of opportunity that we call America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, why is it that so few of us even understand what voting is or the importance of voting? I like to, just as I build my case here this evening, for you to think, there are countries here that actually have a pretty high standard when it comes to voting. And what I mean by that is there are several countries that have 97 to 90% voting participation. Can you imagine if here in America, we had 93% voter participation. Now, what does that mean, voter participation? If 93% of our population voted on our leaders, man, what would our country look like? How different would our country be? The laws that govern the people. You see, only then do we have laws that truly govern all of the people and not just a segment of the people. You know what I mean? And that's kind of difficult. A lot of people don't understand it. A lot of our young people don't understand it. I myself, I can tell you I didn't understand it for a long time. Voting. You know, I was that guy who would say, yeah, I'm going to vote, but I don't really know what I'm voting for. Honestly, the only person I looked at was the president. I didn't realize that all voting, when it comes to us going to the polls, all voting is local. Hear that? All politics is local. And that means that starting with your city council, school board, you know, we have to vote on all of these things. And it's really important for us. And so that's what's been on my mind because I had that question. And that was I think that was one of my better questions this week because I was stunned by it. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. But I did, however, pray about it. You know, I got to admit, I prayed about it, and I jumped right into my Bible. And when I started finding scriptures that talked about voting and that talked about the importance of being subject to our governing authorities, because going back to Romans 13:1, it says, let every person be subject to the governing authority, right? And then it says, for there is no authority except God, and those that exist, here it is, have been instituted by God. Oh, my goodness. There's no authority but God, but all of those in authority, here it is, only exist because God has instituted them, that God has put them there, that God had made it possible for them to be there. So it's a wonderful thing, and I want to encourage everybody because throughout this segment, again, I'm going to be talking to a couple of people. If anybody has questions, if you've got my cell handy, shoot me a text. I'll let you come out and answer the question, or you can just shoot me a email at ministercedric@outlook.com. I will see it. It will pop up on my screen. I will answer your emails live. I have no problem with that. It's just a very important thing for me because it is, voting is such a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's a part of our democracy. You know, without voting, how else could our democracy be set up? And it says, for the people, by the people. So if you don't cast your vote, then how will you have a say-so? How will you have a say-so? So many times I've heard, my one vote doesn't count. I don't understand the political process. I want to vote, but I'm just real busy. So, you know, I didn't make it to the polls. And when I jumped into the Bible, first thing I ran into, it says the heart of God is expressed by the Bible, his concerns, right? Right. God is telling us as Christians that we should pray. And we should look at, it's saying that we should pray and we should look at our leaders and we should be careful who we select. And Timothy 2:1-4 says, I exhort thee that first of all, supplications, prayers, intercessions, and the giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of in the sight of God our Savior. We will have all men to be saved and to come unto the knowledge of the truth. That's 1 Timothy 2:1. Now, what does that mean? For me, it says that we shouldn't assume that the Lord will have us to pray for our leaders, right? All right? So basically, I think that what God really wants us, He wants us to use every opportunity to assist in electing leaders. He wants to give us the opportunity because Jesus said himself, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, meaning whatever belongs to Caesar, we give it to Caesar. And so if you don't know who Caesar was a Roman emperor, okay? And so what Jesus was saying to him that it says to everyone that you should pay your taxes and you should support the work of God. But how is paying taxes biblical? The Bible also tells us that we need to follow the laws of the land, right? And so when I get into talking about politics, what a lot of people don't do is they don't look back far enough or they don't look wide enough. And when you look wide, you get to see what's going on. You can't just focus on yourself. And so it's really important for us to really, truly take action and get out into our communities and vote. Because I do a little community work with some guys out in the west end of Louisville here in Louisville, Kentucky, and I can tell you that a lot of it's strange how when you go out into the community, everybody's got an opinion on what should be changed and how it should be fixed. The work is plenty, but the laborers are few. And what that means to me is that everybody has an opinion. Everybody has something to say. Everybody technically has something to do, but very few people want to actually do anything. And I know you're saying, well, what does that got to do with the Bible and voting and things like that? Look, if we're godly people, the first thing we ought to be doing is looking for godly candidates. We ought to be looking for candidates who are going to support our agenda. Now, I'm not saying we got to force people to do anything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's imperative that we find people who fit the bill, the things that we are looking to achieve. And when it comes to governmental positions, it really matters who we put in these positions. It really matters who we put in these positions because when you put, let's say, an ungodly person there, then a lot of ungodly things happen. If you put a person in office who doesn't mind lying, cheating, stealing, now they may do one or two good things, I don't know, but I'm just saying, then expect that person to be a liar, a cheat, and a thief when he or she takes the office. That's just the way it works. Because in Proverbs 12:19 it says, the lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but a moment. Oh, man. A lying tongue is but a moment. And what that is, if you really think about it, what that is that who are we associating ourselves with? When you look at candidates, you look at what he or she has said in the past, you look at their voting record. That way, when they do speak to us, they can't just tell us they're doing A and the entire track record says that they're doing B. We want them to be with us, and we want them to carry on the agenda. And so, that's just how I was thinking about it. And then I got deeper, and I started really combing the scriptures just a little bit. I actually went out and started talking to a few people, but before I get to that point, I started looking. Who do you associate yourself with? When I started looking at these candidates, and then I started thinking about, that old adage that we've heard so many times. It says, birds of a feather flock together. You see, that adage basically reveals the nature of a person. I like to say, when you're going through a problem, the people you hang around are either where you are, going through what you're going through, or they're coming out of what you're going into. For me, it's those three things. And I found in my life a lot of the people that I'm closely associated with, we're there together. We're equally yoked in that sense. and we have our own issues, just brings into mind. And I'm saying all this to say that it's important for us to get out. It's important for us to vote. Now, how does that fall into responsibility? Well, it's our responsibility to take good care of what God has given us. You know, God has allowed us to be born into, to migrate to live in a society that is, for all practical purposes, the freest society that we have here on earth. Think about that for a minute. We live in a society that is freer than any other country. I mean, we can speak out against the government. We can make changes in laws. We can protest to one another. We get a chance to pick our leaders, and we get a chance to do all of these things. But yet, I'm trying to figure out why some of us stay away. I think on average, our voter turnout, on average is between 63 and 55%. And remember, I told you there were several countries who their voter turnout is in the 90s. And there are countries like Chile, Malta, Austria, Belgium. I mean, these countries, even in Italy, their voter turnout is 90%. That means that they get to elect the type of government they want. Basically, they can put a person in office who supports their agendas. So, important that we talk about this tonight, I believe, is because, one, it's our responsibility. Okay, we want to choose our government. We want to invest in a better future. But being responsible adults, here it is, and this is the big thing. Being responsible adults, how else can you teach the next generation about what's truly important if you yourself don't participate? I want you to think about that. If you're not participating, how can we teach the young people to participate in our government when we refuse to? When we sit back and we complain, when we sit back and just disagree, because I can tell you, just because you think a thing, like the whole neighborhood may think about the exact same thing. We may think that our schools, I live in a particular part of town, and we have little to no books in our school. And we all talk about it. We have a little meeting, and we all talk about neighborhood meetings, and we get together, and our association's all on board. And then when it comes time to elect somebody to the school board that supports our agenda, we stay at home. You see, thinking is not agreeing. When you think a thing, you don't have to agree or disagree. But I tell you what, if you don't get out and vote, all it is a thought. Thinking isn't agreeing or disagreeing. That's voting. When you vote on something, you show what you agree with, you show what you disagree with. Because again, we got to get on top of this. We really, truly have to think about it, because we're at a time right now. It's time for us to get out and vote, and I think we should get out and vote because it's the thing to do. Because we want to choose better leadership, or we want to continue with the same leadership. I'm not sitting here pretending that everybody's going to agree. But again, to agree or disagree, it's just agreeing or disagreeing. If you want it to count, you got to go vote, and that's what's really important for us. I read somewhere that not voting is illegal in Australia. What? So in Australia, they say if you don't vote, it's illegal. So you're committing a crime if you don't vote. I wish it were that serious here in the United States of America. I wish that all of us would say, hey, I'm ready to go do this. Because voting is a privilege, and it's a duty of each of us. Now that I've got on my soapbox and I keep pushing all this information out at you. I keep telling you how important voting is, and I keep telling you about this and telling you about that, how we can raise up voter turnout. Sedric, what are you doing about this? Tell you what, I got a nice little ML350, right? It's a nice little luxury SUV. I have committed to drive around to the elderly or anybody who wants to vote, and I'm gonna give them a first-class ride to the voting polls. Right. We going to the polls. I'm gonna put a little coffee in. I'm gonna make sure I got a little 120 outlet in my car. I'm gonna be brewing up some coffee. And for some of y'all, I like the McDonald's coffee, so I buy it at Kroger or Walmart. And so I'm gonna be brewing up some McDonald's coffee. I'm gonna put it into some spill-proof cups, of course. And I'm gonna give people 3 at a time. I ride down to the polls, and then I'm gonna wait for them, and I'm gonna take them back home. That's the beauty in this, and that's what I want to do about this, because I think of this as being very seriously. Now, I know I mentioned the elderly, but I tell you what, I'm so stoked by the young people. The young people, because we need to get the young people out. And I myself have no problem in talking about voting in biblical terms to the young people, but I want to really just talk to them about voting, about the things that are changing. I have a daughter who's 25. She's gone through college. She got one school loan. And this is just an issue. I don't want to get into all the specifics, but this is one issue for me, is that the interest rates. I don't want the interest rates for school loans to go up. It's already killing our college kids' careers right now. So why do we need to raise that? And so that's one of the issues that I'm voting on. When I look at my candidates, I'm looking to see who's talking about raising the interest rate, who's talking about lowering it, who's talking about benefits for college kids. I'm talking about that because that's a huge issue to me. Having 3 kids in college is a lot, right? 1 graduated, 2 in, but it's a lot. And so I want to keep that down. I want to go, bam, you don't have to do this. And I also think it's important as I'm driving down the road and I'm talking to these people as I take them to the polls, because I don't care who they vote for. Doesn't matter to me. They could be libertarian, they could be Republican, they could be Democrat, they could be independent. Doesn't matter to me. I'm not concerned who you vote for or how you vote. My big concern is that you vote, right? Right. And so all of these thoughts came from a simple email and talked about is voting biblical. And I will say I believe that voting is biblical. I truly understand that. I truly believe that because the issues, the candidates, and you're going to look into the candidate, him or herself. You're going to look at their background. You're going to look at everything about them. And I think there's so many different issues. That's why you can't just be Republican. That's why you just can't be Democratic. That's why you just can't be a libertarian, because all of these issues, they cross over. They cross party lines. And so I want us to understand that if we vote for a candidate or party, that we're not only voting for the person or the party, but we're voting, here it is, or agreeing to the things that they are proposing. Basically, when you vote, you agree to what that candidate is proposing that he or she will do. And that's what we should do. But what they're proposing, check this out, it should be in agreement with the Word of God. Because if it's not, then we'll be siding against God and His Word. Uh-oh. So when I'm talking to people, as I drive them down the street, when these questions come up, because I'm going to actually tell you, I'm going to do my best not to really get into a bunch of political talk, not to get into a debate about God. I'm going to talk to them about what a joy it is to get to the polls. Because think about this. People fought and died for a lot of us to have the right to vote. Think about that. When I meet young people and they say my vote doesn't count, I'm not going to vote, I ask them, who gave you the right? Who gave you the right to walk away? Who gave you the right to not be responsible? Who gave you the right? And the answer is almost always the same. They say, well, nobody. well, I just don't think it's this, or I don't think it's that. And I tell you, I think about them, and I look at them, and I think about whose responsibility is it? Think about that. So think about that while we're sitting back relaxing. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to take a quick 30-second break, and then I'll be right back with you. But I want you to think about and ponder on that for just a minute. When I come back, I got something else I want to throw at you. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Okay, hey, I think I got my two guests on. Chris, you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, Jason, you out there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. Hey, I've been kind of, yeah, I've been kind of on my soapbox about voting. I got a question in the email, and the question was simple. It just said, "Is voting biblical?" And I wanted to take it a little further, and I wanted to ask you guys, and if you would just take a couple of minutes with us, tell me how, or whether or not, first off, voting is important to you, and they got to tell me how being a responsible adult, being a responsible father, brother, mentor, mother, whatever, how it actually plays into your life when it comes to you helping to teach your children or other children or young people about voting. Jason, I guess you up first.
So I think for me it's kind of a history lesson, and ultimately to remind my children, the struggle that we went through to get to this position, and just like everything else, you got a choice. But understand that to go out and make that choice or not to make that choice, how we got to this point. I think, we talk about our government, it is the right people in place. And even if for some reason we don't get that, I think it's more important that we always remember, I always have a saying, it doesn't matter who's in the White House because I know who sits on the throne. So we have to delicate balance and the responsibility that we
Hey Jason, I hate to interrupt you, man. Your volume's going in and out.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that.
I'm trying to hear everything you got to say, but you're kind of in and out on me. Okay, go ahead, give it a try.
Is this better?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I think it's important to balance the responsibility, our civic responsibility, and not get too caught up with, what is going on in the political arena. We've got to always kind of keep a Christian perspective that, hey, these men, although they govern the country, our God governs our circumstances. So for me as a parent, it's just making sure that, especially in today's political climate, that, I'm teaching the kids to have just a good perspective, a balanced perspective on, government and God, and, and keep that first and foremost.
Okay, I'm here. I feel like voting is important, and we should teach our kids that voting is important. We're not going to always get the outcome we want, I feel, but I think it makes a difference when you get out there and vote, and by teaching our kids that it could help the country. Sometimes the polls are not always right. They're going to slide in who they want to slide in, but still go down there and make a vote. You know what I'm saying? So
hold on, Chris. Hold on. I can't let that go. When you say they're going to slide in who they want to slide in, what you mean by that? Elaborate on that. I can't let that go. Sorry.
Okay. The year the count got messed up. Why did all of a sudden? Why all of a sudden the count was messed up? And
be more specific. What count? Be more specific. What count? What year? What are we talking about here?
If I'm not mistaken, I want to say before Clinton was in the office, before he got in office.
Oh, you talking about Bush Gore? That's what you talking about, right?
Yeah, Bush.
You talking about the Florida thing?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. That's after Clinton, brother. But go ahead.
Yeah, and that right there that's not being responsible. You know what I'm saying? This is supposed to be a country where we are the people. Are we the people? Are y'all looking out for our best interests? A lot of us as adults don't feel that way. They feel like, well, I ain't got to vote. It ain't gonna benefit me. But until you look at certain issues and everybody who's debating, we don't watch TV enough today. So we don't really know the issues. Sometimes we go down there and vote just because I'm a Democrat. I'm going to vote. He's going to help us. But you don't even know why you vote for this guy. And I think that's a big issue that we have as black men and as black people. That's my take on it. But as you said, we still have to teach our kids that it is very important to vote.
Right, absolutely. But see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. We ought to always be teaching them. Right. See, one of the things that I personally refuse to accept. I want to debunk this myth that your vote doesn't count. Because I'm going to tell you something. And I want every person in the sound of my voice who is, whether you be age 8 to 80, blind, crippled, or crazy, right? That's what you say in the Army, right? But every person within the sound of my voice, I want you to notice that we can't look at our votes as if they're going to slide in who they want to slide in. You see, because we, the people, means something in America. The problem, I believe, in America is that too many of us feel like my vote really don't count. I can't make an informed vote. I don't know enough about the candidate. We go on that. So how do you fix that? This is how we fix it. In 2018, every candidate has a website. Every single candidate. In Kentucky, I go to kentucky.org, right, and I look up every candidate. I did this just Monday. Looked up every candidate on the ballot. It shows you every candidate. It also shows you the candidates who have withdrawn from races, right? And when you get the name of that candidate, you can go and look at this candidate, right? You can look at their voting record. It takes a little bit of time to figure out who is voting your way versus the other way. Please mute your phone. And the thing is, we have to stop. Here it is. I want to educate you on this. Education ain't free. We have to stop being lazy. We're not going to learn anything by not reading. It was once said a long time ago, I forget who said it, but they said, if you want to hide something from a black man, here it is, put it in a book. Because not enough of us were reading. Not enough of us were being educated. You know, do you know the highest educated, how do I want to put it, genre or group of people in this country? Do you know who, today, as of 2018, you know who gets the most education? I'm going to break it down, like black men, white men, Hispanic men, black women, white women, Hispanic women, whatever. Who right now is getting the most education? The highest percentage of this group is being educated. Either one of you guys know who that is? Know which group that is? Maybe. Come on, participate with me. All right. Since I ain't getting no answer, I'm going to go ahead and tell you.
Yeah.
Did you know that? Okay, who do you think it is? Which group? Which genre?
I would say black, and you know the reason why?
Black men, black children, black women.
I would say black men.
Okay, what about you, Jason? You got to take on that? I know you're a college guy. You know. I know you've been looking at this stuff, right?
Like, who's getting the most education now? I would probably say it's probably the someone in the Latino Hispanic community, based on just all the things that they did.
Let me go ahead and bust the bubble for you. It's black women. Black women are getting advanced degrees more so than everyone else. Can you believe that today? And I'm going to tell you something about that. This is why voting is so important to me. And this is a statistic that I read, okay? Not something I went out and researched and made it for myself. I read it, okay? But check this out. They're most oppressed, right? Women have been oppressed too, Lord, for forever, right? And now there are black women, they're being oppressed. They've gone through a lot. They get paid less than their counterparts. So basically, a lot of times they're some of the lowest paid people for the types of jobs that they do, right? And yet, today, they're the ones getting the highest level of education. I'm going to tell you how that breaks down into what we're talking about. And I'm going to try to do it real quick and make it real simple. Let's go to, gosh, what was his name? It was the black female vote that kept, what was his name, Roy Moore, out of office. It was the black female vote that kept him out of office. They turned out a number like 98% of them went out to vote. Now, I brought that up to say, Chris, just to say what you were saying. I understand what happened with Bush v. Gore, and we know that the electorate finally came down to the state of Florida, which Bush's brother was the governor of Florida, right? I understand that.
Right.
But imagine this. Imagine if 90% of the electorate in our country turned out to vote. We could have in office who we need, who's going to push our agenda. We take away the power of money. Because if we take a page out of the black female vote, I think that was Mississippi. Alabama, that's what it was. It was Alabama. I think it was Alabama. If we take a page out of their book and all of us go vote, we can win. We don't have to worry about they're going to slide in who they want to slide in. And imagine talking to our children about that. Imagine saying to our kids, look, your vote counts. Your vote counts. And being able to back that up. And that's what the question was about is voting biblical. And I think absolutely it's biblical. I think it's absolutely necessary. Alabama, Roy Moore was. I just looked it up. That's why I'm bringing it up. And so when we talk about voting, we have to talk about it from a standpoint. Look, listen. Jason, Chris, did either one of y'all vote during for the president? Did anybody vote in that election, 2016? Anybody go down and vote November?
Nah, I didn't.
You didn't vote, Chris. Okay. What about you, Jason? Did you go down and vote?
No, I didn't make it out to the polls that year.
You didn't make it out to. So I'm gonna ask you this. Now, is it that you don't keep up with the issues? Is it that the issues aren't important? Is it that because Jason, if I'm not mistaken, you believe in God, right? You definitely, and when I say believe in God, I'm kind of being a little bit facetious, but what I mean to say is you truly believe in the Word of God. You try to live by the Word of God, right?
Yes, I do.
And so when I was on earlier, because I had to do a little homework, and I apologize, not for being prepared, but that I pulled up a few scriptures that talked about voting, and that's where the question came from. Is voting biblical? And I looked at the one, Romans 13:1, where it says, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. So if we don't, as Christians, turn out to vote for like-minded people, what are we going to get? What are we to expect? People who aren't really Christian? You know what I'm saying? How can we make the government work for us? And I'm going to try to do that real quick. We got about 9 minutes left. Can either one of you tell me, how do we make the government work for us? Do y'all have any insight on that, how we make the government work for us?
What do you mean by work for us?
Work for us. Remember, I was talking about the issues of schools. You know, your school may not have enough books. How do you make the government work for you? Because I do want to tell you this. When you start thinking about in the political arena, and you start thinking about voting, we're not just talking about voting for the highest office in the land, which is the office of the president. No. I'm talking voting. All voting starts local. It starts in your district. It starts right at your house. It starts with your council members and when you go to like the treasurer, right? You go to the governors, the mayors. You know, it's in your cities. You start right in your city, and a lot of power is right there. And so that's what I mean. How do you make it work for you? This is how you make it work for you. When you vote for a candidate, and I need everybody to understand this. When you vote for a candidate, I've served on a couple of campaigns, help fundraise, and go out and knock on doors. But when you vote for a candidate, it's important that you know who it is you're voting for so that you can have access to that candidate. You hear me? And not just one person has access. You're going to get with, let's say we voted for a mayor. We've got a mayor. We instituted this mayor. This mayor came down. He talked to us. He fed us a 10-course meal. But he got in office. He's been in office for a year, and he ain't doing none of what he said. How do you make him do what you need him to do? This is what you do. You go to his office. You bring all your people, and you go and talk to him. And if that doesn't work, that's where people protest. That's why I love this country, because we can speak out against our government. You hear what I'm saying? And what we do by doing that, a lot of people, I grew up thinking Al Sharpton was a race baiter, right? That's what I grew up thinking. My dad kind of explained some things to me. My mom, my parents kind of explained some things to me, but I didn't really understand them. And I didn't like how Reverend Al talked. I didn't like how Reverend Jesse Jackson spoke. I didn't like it. But what I missed was the core issues. You see, they had a certain agenda, but that agenda was covered all up by all the other stuff they had going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could never get to the core issue. It was a slogan. It became a slogan. And so words are just words. Yes, they have power, but if you're not backing up what you say, how can I support you? And that's where we come to. So when you have a candidate who's doing a job that you don't approve of, you go and you talk to him. You either do this job or we ain't voting for you the next go round. You won't be in office the next go round. We're going to vote somebody else in office. You know, you hold people accountable that way. Now, you can't just go out and make a bunch of noise to hold somebody accountable. I will tell you that. You have to be organized, right? And so in this organization, when it comes to voting, now this is all this goes into, is voting biblical? You got a standard that you want to adhere to. The Bible says that all things should be done decent and in order. So when you go to that public official, you've got a list of demands, a list of wants, a list of concerns, or however you want to call it. You got this list. And then when you start interviewing the next candidate, you know, you talking to him and you got this list and you say, okay, item 1, check, he's for that. Item 10, check, he's for that. Item 10 through 20, he's for that. But what about item 2 through 9? I got a couple of question marks. I got a red line because he ain't with that. But guess what? You find the candidate that best suits your agenda. You see what I'm saying?
You're right. You're right about that. What I wanted to touch on earlier, I just wanted to make a statement, is the issue. Mm-hmm. The issue is big enough, we would go down there and vote. Remember when they tried to push church into schools? The majority of the people got up and voted no. You cannot force my child. They went down there and voted. So if the issue is not big enough, I think that's another reason why people vote and don't vote. If, you know.
Well, I'm going to tell you this on that. If the issue's not big enough, I'm going to tell you something. Every issue is big enough. There are some issues that you can compromise on, but every issue is big enough. I need to get people to get this in them. I need everybody to think on this, because I'm going to tell you something. Working in communities that are poverty-stricken, working with children because their parents don't have a great job, because their parents made mistakes, does not mean that they should have to suffer their entire childhood for that. I tell you another issue that's big for me, and I don't mind paying extra. A lot of people tell me I'm crazy. Healthcare is a big issue for me, right? And okay, and again, I'm talking in the context of being biblical here. Healthcare is a big issue for me because we have a lady who works for us, and she said to me the other day, Sedric, I have to sometimes figure out if I'm going to have $300 for groceries or if I'm going to have $150 for groceries because of my medical bills. I'm the guy who says I will gladly pay a little extra so that she can have the medical treatment that she needs without going bankrupt, without missing meals. You see what I'm saying? Is voting biblical? It's imperative for us to get the right people in office, not just for our own sakes, but for the others, for the people who can't take care of themselves. You hear what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Because I don't want to just chop on issues. I want to talk about the big picture. Is voting biblical? And when I look at voting, I come back and I say it is biblical. I say that the Bible tells us that we should take care of one another. It tells us to do that. And so for me, important enough for me to talk to my children about it. I had this whole big discussion, Chris, I think I told you about it. And my daughter said, well, Dad, I'm not registered to vote. I got online. I put in their names. I put in their information, all of their information, and guess what? They voted in the presidential election, so guess what? They're in Texas. They are registered to vote, and they don't even know it. You know what I'm saying? I had to call them and tell them. I had to apologize first for getting upset with them for not taking it seriously, but I had to apologize to them and tell them, you know what, you registered to vote for in 2016, so you're registered to vote, you're good to go. All you got to do is go down there and vote. Go to your precinct and vote. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's how important voting is for me. How do I teach my kids this? I am showing them how important it is. It's important enough for me to look it up for them and say, hey, guys, come on. What y'all going to do? It's important enough for me to not have a problem taking a flight to Dallas. If I got to drag them, kicking and screaming to the polls, they go into the polls. Do you hear what I'm saying? Because it's that important for me. And maybe they don't take it that seriously until they're 35 or 40. I don't have a problem with that. At least they will know. And I want to be the example. I want to be that shining light. I want to be the one when they look back and say, you know what, my dad used to fuss at me about voting all the time. Finally, I'm voting. So with that being said, I know we're close to the end of our time. I know we got a few seconds. We got less than a minute here. I just want to say to everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Yo, Chris, Jason, thank y'all so much for coming on tonight. I know we're going to have plenty more to talk about in the coming weeks. And remember to keep your questions coming. Again, it's Minister Sedric at Outlook.com. I love to get the emails, and we're going to try to get some more show titles out. But I want to thank everybody. So as we close, remember, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and just mellow out and know that God has it. Find something you love. Pursue that thing that you love because that's your relentless pursuit. This is Minister Sedric saying y'all have a good night and a wonderful weekend. God bless you.
We all have those moments when we doubt ourselves and those storms arise. And that's the moment when you know you need a miracle.
It's gonna take a miracle. Do you believe in miracles? See, he
walking miracle. Stress after stress after stress, and you wouldn't even get out of bed. Feeling that your life is depressed, and everything that's going through your head. See, you are not alone. There's a lot of people like you, feeling that you're on your own. But let me tell you that somebody's with you. See, he has been there with you from day one, day one, day one. And all them times you figure you was done. No, see, he was right there ordering your steps. And he's gonna fight for you till his last breath. It's gonna take a miracle. Do you believe in miracles? Say he's a walking miracle. Everybody needs a miracle. It's gonna take a miracle. Do you believe in miracles? Say he's a walking miracle. Everybody needs a hero. Everybody needs someone they can turn to. Get down on your knees. You know who to pray to. The storm will always come, but the sun is right behind you. So when you're feeling you are lost, don't worry, he will find you. See, he's the reason for the life you have, the life you have. And he wants you to have faith and hope, so you'll stand. Oh, you'll stand with me. And if you believe, then he will make that path. Because he's the one. Everybody looking for the hero so bad. It's gonna take a miracle. Do you believe in miracles? Say he's a walking miracle. Everybody needs a miracle. It's gonna take a miracle. Do you believe in miracles? Say he's a walking miracle. Everybody needs a hero.